I'm Simon. I've been at EDB for about 5 years. I joined in 2020. I live in Bristol, so it's nice to be up in a big city instead of my comfy country abode. EDB for 5 years. Before that, I was at IBM through an acquisition of a company called CloudNativePG. We ran a database as a service that was using CouchDB. And then before that, I was at Bristol University doing stuff for CERN experiments on LHC. And that was sort of large-scale data management stuff. I'm SVP of engineering at EDB. My team covers everything kind of cloudy, cloud-native-y. So Jonathan Gabrielli works with me. We deliver Kubernetes solutions. We deliver cloud products. We deliver hybrid cloud stories, all that kind of good stuff. So I thought it was fun to sort of think about the timeline that we've had here. And I'm trying not to have a sort of thinly veiled advert as a speaker, as a sponsor speaker. I started playing around with Kubernetes in 2017, actually. Weirdly, I was in Beijing. I was in our IBM lab in Beijing, and I was setting up cloud and software on Kube, and basically got to the conclusion that it wasn't going to help us. And it wasn't because Kube wasn't solving hard problems. It was the database that we ran at the time solved those problems itself. And so all the sort of distributed system type stuff that Kube brings, we'd kind of taken into account and were solving by using Erlang, which brought its own set of challenges. If we were building that cloud and database product from the get-go, we probably would have jumped on Kubernetes as quickly as possible. And I think a lot of those sort of NoSQL databases, EDB obviously is more Postgres-y, but at the time, those NoSQL databases, they kind of embraced that sort of, this thing's going to fail, stuff's going to disappear, servers aren't going to be reliable, network's not going to be reliable much early on, so had a closer alignment with Kube and what Kube was trying to do. The number of talks I've given about cap theorem is kind of a little bit silly, and I try to not talk about it anymore. Trying to give up the habit. So one of the things that we sort of want to talk about or think about is EDB's been around for 21 years. The company was founded in 2004, and it's built this sort of fairly long-lived company off the back of kind of providing enterprise-grade solutions built on top of open source technology, so Postgres mainly, but sort of all the stuff around that ecosystem as well. And so we sort of think about these kind of 4 pillars about kind of building out core technologies, developing the ecosystem, helping people kind of learn, nurture how to use the stuff, and then kind of how do you win over the enterprise. And I think the sort of thing here, one of the things as we were doing these slides that sort of stuck in my mind, about 16 years ago, I keep sort of finding myself reflecting on things that happened years and years ago, and I feel really old. But 16 years ago, I was invited to ApacheCon in Amsterdam. And the guy who invited me, this is when I was an academic, this is when I was at the university, and I was sort of chatting to him, and he was saying, why don't we have more academics here? And I said, well, it's at the Movenpick in Amsterdam. It's one of the most expensive hotels in the city. I don't think that's right. I've just started. But yeah, it's one of the most expensive hotels in the city. The reason that there aren't loads of academics is here is we can't afford it, right? And he's like, yeah, the point is this event is not for you. It's not for academics. It's for C-suite people who expect to stay in a nice hotel. And we want to have those people in to learn about the technology, to talk to them and explain that this solves problems that they're not expecting to solve. And so I think there's an important lesson there, and something I've sort of kept in mind for a long time is you've got to be really intentional about when you're sort of trying to address that enterprise sort of C-suite folk, be really deliberate about what you're talking to them about, why you're talking to them, why they should care. That stuff's really, really important, and something that I think it's really easy to sort of forget. Like there's cool technology, but a lot of those people don't care so much about that. Or maybe they do care about it, but they also care about bottom line or numbers or can I employ people or whatever. So this kind of idea of sort of building out these 4 things, I think the DOK stuff is doing this stuff fantastically. this is sort of more of the same, please, rather than a sort of course correction or anything like that. And I think the thing that's interesting as well is that we're in a transition period where this idea of running databases on Kubernetes, the previous 2 talks, is starting to become normal, right? So this is a few of the adopters that we've got on CloudNativePG, just pulled their names and logos from the adopters file. But they're not small people, they're people who have sort of, big deal stuff. They might be using it in different stages or different levels of their adoption, but they're people who are using it and are in that kind of enterprise tier class of customer. So yeah, I think this idea of sort of building up confidence in the technology stack, building up confidence in Kubernetes as a way of solving your data management problems, you've got to kind of touch all these things. So being able to benchmark stuff, demonstrate that, make that kind of something really, really easy to do and repeat. The sort of trust but verify thing is quite common. We're starting to see stuff where AI data sovereignty, people don't like the idea of their data that is their kind of, a lot of these companies, their data set is their business. And if they lose that data set, big problems, right? So they're trying to sort of start finding ways of kind of keeping that in-house. And we're starting to see that sort of just general adoption. So as a C-suite person, you're going to think about things that perhaps are slightly different. Things like, can I hire these skills? Can I send people on training courses? Do graduates know what it is, right? Like stuff that sort of like, is this a brand? Is this a name thing that people just go, yeah, this is something that we need to have? Is the ecosystem thriving? Are there are there tools, lots of different tools that I can kind of plug together to build a system that solves my company's problem? And yeah, can I trust and verify the claims? So can I, if someone publishes a white paper, can I repeat that in-house and demonstrate that it works as well or better? We're talking to customers all the time who are sort of either looking for or already are building ways to run internal DBaaS systems. So internal database as a service. They might be running PaaS or SaaS as well. They're probably running hybrid environments. Everything's becoming more and more heterogeneous. So instead of having kind of, we're all in on one cloud or one vendor, more and more you're seeing kind of diversity and spread across that stuff. There's actually a nice paper that O'Reilly did a few years ago around polycloud, and the point there was that you lean into that. So an enterprise is usually quite acquisitive. They're buying companies, and it might be that the company they've just bought has a 10-year deal with a CSP, for example, at really good price. And instead of kind of saying, well, sorry, you've got to kill that and move over to the one that we've already signed, you're looking at ways of saying, okay, well, we'll keep that for that specific use case, bring it over to, bring other activities over to the sort of the other standard stuff. And things like Kubernetes and the data on Kubernetes kind of community really helps with that kind of portability. So I can say, actually, I'm just running on GKE, that's fine, I'm going to stay over there, and I'm going to run over here on AKS, for example. So I think we're well past the sort of when. Karen's talk earlier was really nice to see that 48% of the room is using it in production and 18% are testing it. So already kind of 2/3 of the way to sort of complete adoption of this stuff. So we're well past that sort of when, and we're now kind of, or well past that why, and we're now into the when and actually the now, I think. Simple stuff like benchmarking, having standards, helps to drive that confidence. People don't like to be tied into a single vendor. There are enough sort of horror stories of, people signed a deal and then realized that they've made a terrible mistake. So having that portability between clouds, between hardware and on and off premise hardware, between different technologies is really, really key. We mentioned on the AI stuff that's kind of driving people into that kind of choosing stuff that isn't so much we just shove it all in one place. It's going to be where people need it to be. And I think the sort of main thing I wanted to kind of call out on this slide was that the community is the thing that drives this stuff, right? The ability for a company to, or a person working at a company to tap into a Slack channel and get an answer to a hard question is really, really important. And I wanted to thank everybody who's involved in data on Kubernetes as a sort of for all the hard work that's been done and put into the community. It's the way that we kind of move it forward, and I think it's really important. And yeah, last little slide. This is a CloudNativePG. I couldn't not put it in. I'm sure there are other slides for other projects, but this is a nice kind of up and to the right graph. And I think we're seeing these sort of things across all of the data on Kubernetes projects because it's something that people are interested in and are looking to adapt towards. So if you want to see why that's that, there's some people out there who will tell you about it in great detail and give you a demo. And yeah, we've got booth N630. Come and say hello and have a drink tomorrow evening. Cool, thanks.
Thank you, Simon.